Least common multiple and greatest common factor. The least common multiple, which we abbreviate LCM, is the smallest number that two or more numbers can divide into evenly. For example, if we have 3 and 7, the smallest number we can think of that both 3 and 7 divide into is 21. 3 divides evenly into 21, 7 divides evenly into 21, and 21 is the smallest number like that both 3 and 7 divide into it. Look at 4 and 6. 4 and 6 both divide into 12. How about 4 and 16? 4 and 16 both divide into 16. So the least common multiple can be one of the numbers. If there are 3 numbers, then you have to think, what do all 3 of those numbers divide evenly into? The smallest one you can think of. So if I look at 5, 3, and 2, the smallest number that all 3 of those divide into is 30. So 30 is the least common multiple, or the LCM. Now with smaller numbers, most of the time it's easy to just figure that out in your head, to figure out what the numbers divide into. But sometimes when the numbers get larger, it becomes a little more difficult. So let's look at a method to figure out the least common multiple if we can't just sort of come up with it in our head. We have 12 and 30. So you pick the larger number, which is the 30. And I'm going to make a little chart. Here's the smaller number, 12. And I'm going to multiply 30 by 1, which is 30. Will 12 go into 30? Will 12 divide evenly into 30? No, it will not. So I try 30 times 2, which is 60. Will 12 divide into 60? Yes, it will. Therefore, 60 is the least common multiple. If 30 times 2 hadn't worked, then we would have moved up to 30 times 3, 30 times 4, and so on, until we found a number that 12 would divide into. 5 and 15. So I look at the larger number, 15, and I multiply it times 1. Then the smaller number over here to the side, will 5 divide into 15? Yes, it will. So then 15 is the least common multiple. 7 and 40. 40 is the larger number. So I try 40 times 1, which is 40. Will 7 divide evenly into 40? No. So I try 40 times 2, 80. Will 7 divide evenly into 80? No. Keep going. 40 times 3 is 120. Will 7 divide evenly into 120? Nope. Keep going. 40 times 4, 160. Divides evenly by 7? No. 40 times 5 is 200. Divided by 7 does not come out even. 40 times 6, 240. Still no. 40 times 7 is going to have to work because of the 7. 40 times 7 is 280. That does divide evenly by 7. So our winner is 280. That's the least common multiple. You can do this if you have any number of numbers. Here I have 3. So pick the larger one, the largest one. That would be 18. 18 times 1 is 18. And now you're going to check both the 5 and the 12 to see if they'll divide. Do the bigger one first. And if that works, then try the smaller one. So will 12 divide into 18? No. So you don't have to even try the 5. 18 times 2 is 36. Will 12 divide into 36? Yes. So the 12 worked. Now try the 5. Will 5 divide into 36? No. Then try 18 times 3, which is 54. Will 12 divide into 54? No. So you don't need to even check the 5. Go to 18 times 4 is 72. 12 will divide into 72, but 5 will not. So we're going to have to keep going. $18 times 5 is 90. 12 won't divide into 90. So you're going to keep going like this all the way to 18 times 10. When you get to 18 times 10, which is 180, 12 divides into 180 and also 5 divides into 180. So our least common multiple is 180. Least common multiple is used to reduce fractions. Now we're going to talk about greatest common factor, which is used to get common denominators. The greatest common factor is the largest number that will divide evenly into 2 or more numbers. So let's look at 16 and 80. We want to think of the largest number that will divide into both 16 and 80. And again, maybe you can just think of that off the top of your head, maybe not. So if you can't just think of that off the top of your head, you start this time with the smaller number, which is 16. And I'm going to write all the things you multiply together to get 16. 1 and 16. 2 times 8 is 16. And 4 times 4 is 16. Out of those 6 numbers that I've listed, you want to pick one that goes into 80, that divides into 80. And you want to pick the largest one that divides into 80. So of those 6 numbers, the largest one that divides into 80 is 8. So 8 is the greatest common factor. Let's look at 12 and 30. So you start with the smaller number. List everything you multiply together to get 12. 1 and 12, 1 times 12. 2 times 6. 3 times 4. Out of those 6 numbers, what's the largest one that also divides into 30? That would be 6. So 6 is the greatest common factor. 8 and 15. So 8 is the smaller number. Write down all the numbers you multiply together to get 8. 1 and 8. 2 and 4. Now you want to pick the largest one that will divide into 15. 8 won't, 2 won't, 4 won't. The only one of those 4 numbers that will divide into 15 is 1. So in this case, 1 is the greatest common factor. And one more, let's look at 44 and 96. So the smaller number, and I list everything you multiply together to get 44. 1 times 44, 2 times 22, 4 times 11. And out of those 6 numbers, the largest one that also divides into 96 is 4. So 4 is the greatest common factor.